Hello friends and welcome to StudyIQ. I am Joycey Joy and today in this lecture we will discuss about the role of India and China in the Asian century. We will also see what is the meaning of Asian century and we will discuss what is the geopolitical significance of the recent meeting held by the heads of India and China in Mamallapuram, which is rather known as Mamallapuram Summit, and we will also see what is the growing significance of Asia. We will discuss about the role of India and China in the development of Asia region and what are the potential areas of cooperation between India and China and what is the way forward. Now, India-China relations in bilateral relations or in international trade is a very important topic for your UPSC preparations. In your mains examination, you can expect a question on Indo-China relations and what is the growing significance of cooperation between India and China. So all these are expected questions. So from that perspective, this is a very important topic. So let us start. Let us first discuss about the current affair. What is a current affair? Recently, a summit known as Mamallapuram Summit was held between Chinese President Xi Jinping and also the Prime Minister of India, that is the heads of both these countries, met in a summit in Mamallapuram, and this summit is considered as one step in order to strengthen the relation between India and China. So this is one current affair, and in this backdrop we need to understand the significant role of India and China in the growing Asian century. Now, what is meant by Asian century? Asian century means that the growth potential, the whole world is looking at Asia. The Asia region is considered as the region with the maximum growth potential in the coming years. So we will discuss about Asia century in detail later in this lecture itself. So this is the current affair. Now let us come to the geopolitical significance of this Mamallapuram summit. Firstly, the Indo-China summit which was held in Mamallapuram, this is an evidence of an increasingly multipolar century. Now, what is meant by multipolar century? Multipolar century means that not just one country or one economy has got the power, all the power within them, but it is a multipolar century or multipolar system means that many countries, there is sharing of power between many countries. So, the Indo-China summit is an evidence that both the countries has recognized the increasingly multipolar century, that is the sharing or division of powers among these countries. So it means that no one country alone or single-handedly can dictate the global rules or can solve the global challenges in the coming future. So one country cannot become all superior, all powerful in order to resolve the global challenges as well as to dictate the global rules in the future. So a multipolar century has been appreciated and acknowledged by both these countries. Now, secondly, Asia will be the central of this development. So what is meant by this? Asia will be the central to this development. It means that Asia is the region that the entire global world is looking into. This is because Asia has got the potential in the coming future to take over other regions in terms of economic growth. So all the economies are looking at Asia region and the center of development in the coming future would be Asia, and that is why we call it as Asia century, where Asia will grow as a superpower, a region that is powerful than all other regions in terms of economic growth and development. Now, what is the growing significance of Asia? First one, in the coming years, the Asian economies will become larger than the rest of the world. Now, what is meant by larger than rest of the world? Is it in terms of land or geographical factors? No. This is based on economical factors. What are the economical factors? The first one is combined PPP or purchasing power parity. Now, in terms of purchasing power parity, the combined PPP of the Asia region is going to be the largest one among other regions. So, in the coming future, in the near future itself, Asian economies will become larger than the rest of the world in terms of combined purchasing power parity, and this is for the first time since the 19th century. Now, second one is the Asian region is getting more integrated. A very relevant example in this regard is the RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, which aims at the integration of economies. So, RCEP members are ASEAN members +3+3. We will come to it later. So, integration means there will be more economic growth as well. Trade will increase. The connectivity between the countries will increase. So more integration means more richness. So as the Asian region becomes more integrated, it will grow more richer as well. Now thirdly, it is also a constructive force for global governance. Why it is a constructive force for global governance? This is because now we will see that when we look at the condition of multilateral institutions, we will see that there is a lack of leadership. Also, there is a lack of consensus. So, this lack of leadership and consensus in the multilateral organizations like the World Bank, IMF, WTO, etc., UN, all these are multilateral institutions. So, the lack of leadership or consensus in these multilateral institutions hampers the much needed reforms that has to be brought to this multilateral institutions. Now, the countries, major economies in the Asia region, China and India, can take a effort in order to create a constructive force for global governance. Now, fourthly, what is to be understood is that Asia is becoming a locus for new multilateral initiatives. When the multilateral institutions and the role of multilateral institutions are fading in the rest of the world, Asia is a growing example of multilateral institutions and promotion of multilateral institutions. An example is the CPTPP, that is Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership. Another example is the RCEP, a very important example, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. Third one is AIIB, that is the Asian Infrastructure and Development Bank. So these are some of the multilateral institutions that have gained the attention of the global world, and these multilateral institutions are based on Asia. So when the multilateral institutions' role are fading or diminishing in the rest of the world, Asia is coming up as a leader or as a locus for new multilateral initiatives. Now, what can be the role that India and China potentially play in this regard for the development of Asia region? Now, there is no doubt that India and China will have its own significant role to play. This is because among Asia region, India and China is considered to be the largest economies or the most prominent economies. Now, secondly, both these economies, India and China, both the interest of these economies are in promoting a fair and inclusive form of globalization. So they have shared interest in promoting globalization or inclusive globalization. Now, third factor is the population in this region. Now, India and China alone, they constitute around 35% of world's population. So, population is the demographic dividend. It refers to the manpower or human resource. So, China and India combined together has got 35% of the world's population, which is also a very significant factor where India and China can make considerable contributions. Now, fourth, when we talk about GDP, which is the gross domestic product, GDP or gross domestic product refers to the economic growth. So, GDP or gross domestic product, the economies together, India and China, both these economies together constitute 45% of global growth. So, the global growth accounts for 45% from both of these economies in terms of GDP. Now, fifth one, when we talk about the reforms in multilateral institutions, at present there is a lack of leadership or lack of consensus in this multilateral institutions. So when we talk about the reforms that are to be undertaken in the multilateral institutions, India and China combined together, they will have a critical mass to boost reforms of institutions like WTO, UN, IMF, World Bank, etc. Now, the reforms that could be possibly undertaken by India and China can make sure that the developing countries or the UDCs get more say in this multilateral organizations and the functioning of this organizations. Now, also, India and China, if they work together, there is also more potential for regional stability. So if India and China works together, they can ensure that there is an integrated and more prosperous Asia region. So this is the role of India and China in developing the Asia region. Now let us come to potential areas of cooperation for India and China. First one is economic cooperation. Now when we talk about economic cooperation, India has got its strength in services sector, whereas China has got its strength in the manufacturing sector. So both this can complement to each other. Now possible areas of collaboration and cooperation includes IT, that is information technology. This is because China is a leading investor in artificial intelligence, quantum communications, etc. Whereas India is a world leader in software outsourcing, IT consulting, etc. So IT is one area where a partnership, an economic partnership between India and China can be effective. Second area of cooperation could be connectivity. So cooperation between China and India will help in the integration process of Asia. So integration of Asia, two major factors are India and China. So better integration can take place, and this will cut the transport cost, and this will help in increasing the trade. Now a very good example is BRI, Belt and Road Initiative. India has not joined the Belt and Road Initiative. So India can work, and as well as China also can work out issues and negotiate and finally settle this integration exercises. Now when we talk specifically about the Belt and Road Initiative, China should take a multilateral approach. So if the BRI is multilateralized, then India would be able to negotiate. So connectivity is another potential area of cooperation. Third one is tourism. Now we have spoken about trade in goods and services. Now third focus area should be and could be tourism. Along with goods and capital, the flow of people, that is the flow of human, are also very important in ensuring integration of Asia. And in this regard, the cultural ties between India and China can be a potential factor. So the cultural ties can be made use of, and for this, improving the visa processes, creating programs for a talent exchange or academic exchange like the student exchanges, etc. can help in this regard. Now another potential area of cooperation is environmental protection, and this is a potential area for long-term cooperation. India and China, they are the most populous countries in the world. So joint efforts between both these countries, India and China, will be crucial to tackle the environmental challenges like the climate change. And with regard to climate change, India and China are linked by several other factors as well. For example, shared water resources. We have certain water resources shared between India and China. Also the Himalayan ecology, this is shared between India and China. So we have certain links in this regard as well. Now what is the way forward? What can be done? First one is to create a cooperation dividend. So for creating a cooperation dividend, the trust deficit should be managed properly. So there is a trust deficit between India and China. This trust deficit is because of many factors like border issues, regional politics, etc. Now a cooperation dividend can be initiated. Now second one is the completion of RCEP. So India and China must complete its negotiation in RCEP, and completing the RCEP process will ensure better integration in the Asia region, especially between India and China. So this will help in deepening the cooperation in trade and investment. So RCEP is considered as a game changer in the integration of Asia region. So India and China should work out on this and finalize the negotiations. Now third one, we have already discussed the role of India and China in reviving the multilateralism. The multilateral culture is fading away. The role of multilateral institutions like the IMF, UN, etc. are coming down. So India and China should use its cooperation in playing a crucial role in reviving multilateralism and creating a more united Asia. So these are all what are required in order to build a better relation, a bilateral relation between India and China, and thereby integrate Asia and benefit the Asian region as a whole. You can find the PDF of this lecture on our website www.studyiq.com. You can also follow my Facebook page for more video updates. You can write to me at joycey.studyiq@gmail.com for any of your queries and clarification. Thank you.